So this is a podcast coming from Dorset Carers Hub and Community Share. And today we're joined by Chris Loder MP. We're really looking forward to catching up with Chris to see what has been happening at Westminster and his work in Dorset.
Good afternoon, Chris.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you this afternoon. Thank you very much for inviting me.
So we wanted to bring you up to speed, Chris, about what we've been doing. When did we last see? When was it? September? I think, wasn't it? Must have been something along those lines. Well, we have this animal has got bigger and bigger, and we still seem to be riding it. We have, I think, 300 now on Facebook, 700 on Twitter, 420-ish on subscribers. And it just seems to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And even with obviously the virus, we have managed to connect in numerous ways. Social media has become a mainstay, especially Zoom, Facebook, etc. And we're hearing a lot of good things, obviously, with regard to we're doing the bingo, and which seems to be especially popular, and quizzes, anything really to distract.
I haven't played bingo for a very long time. I used to go to bingos with my grandmother when I was a little boy, which was great fun. I think I remember two little ducks, and then people used to go quack quack.
Yes.
Didn't they? 22 and so on. I would mind coming to join you for a bingo session one day.
Well, there's not a problem. We do it remotely, so you can do it from wherever you are.
Yeah, we just post the go to kids for you. You do it from home.
Yeah. They'd love that. I think they'd really enjoy that, wouldn't they? It's with the ordinary man in the street.
Yeah, no, it was great fun. I remember.
We've had one of the big concerns for us has been advocacy, and we've seen a lot of carers having mental health crises. And to that end, we, as in myself, Sue, Marcus and Mark Top, who you've met before, have recently successfully completed the mental health first aid training course. And we're in the midst of the teaching qualification. And the aim of the exercise is then that we would be able to teach levels 1 through 3, I think is right. Mental health first aid. Doesn't make you a counsellor or anything like that. It simply allows you to be able to see that there may be a problem, and giving first responder and direct them to professionals.
It's really helpful. I mean, I've had friends and colleagues who done it at work when I worked for the railways before I was elected, and I know how important it is, especially to recognise when people are having a tough time, and to suggest ways of getting them help is really key.
Yeah.
I think one of the key things I think that first aid for mental health can bring is that early warning. So we all have mental wellness at differing levels, and we have things in our family lives and our work lives that can put a little bit of pressure on that. And it's great if that first aider can actually direct you instantly to support and help and increase your own awareness, and therefore alleviate the onset of those more common terms of mental health struggles. So that's where we're focused.
How many of you are there?
So we have four new instructors who will be able to deliver full off-qual qualifications. And the focus of that is to actually get people in all organisations, in the community, in community groups, equipped with those skills, so that we create a greater awareness and an ability to signpost, as Mark said, for that support, help. And if it's at the extreme level, then an intervention from professionals. But it's really for us about actually never having to get to that serious level. It's actually averting and directing much earlier in the piece.
Yeah. Well, it's great news. I'm really pleased that you've been able to do it. How is everybody at the moment?
What, generally, or
Yeah, in terms of carers, in terms of
Struggling.
those who are part of the hub. I'm just really interested to know how everybody is.
extremely poor.
They are struggling.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think one of the things that has been a real problem that Sue will let you know about in a moment is addressing the issues of vaccine and eligibility for vaccine.
Okay.
And the message has been garbled at best.
Yeah.
And it has been a source of massive frustration. I mean, one example was, a lady said to me, she went onto the appropriate website. She had about 5 minutes, couldn't find what she wanted. It wasn't clear, it was ambiguous, so she didn't bother. And that is quite common. But we did have some progress on that, didn't we?
Yeah. So me being me, I had lots and lots of messages from people, worried that they weren't going to get the vaccination. They didn't know how they're going to get the vaccination. And despite the information that was coming down to me from NHS England and Public Health England, the information still wasn't clear enough, really. So what they were starting to do is, when they couldn't get in touch with me, because I'm only one person and there's quite a lot of them, they were ringing their GP surgeries, and the GPs were then also as confused. But what that then created was a whole other problem, in that they were then telling the carers that they couldn't even register as a carer with the GP surgery, which is totally wrong, because they are allowed to register as a carer. So I arranged a meeting with Ben Norman, who is head of communication at CCG here. Yeah. And I had a meeting with him yesterday. And a very positive outcome of that is that they're going to work with us to make sure that the wording is clearer on their website, and that carers can see quite clearly when information comes out that it's, because as I explained to him, carers don't have the time to sift around for information, read through documents to find the little bit that's relevant for them. They need it quick and clear because they're busy people. So they're going to work with us.
That's great. That is really great news. I'm really pleased to hear that the CCG are doing that. And if there is anything that I can do to help you in terms of the prioritization of carers in that way, and or to get the vaccine a little bit quicker, be very happy to do all I can to help.
Fantastic. I mean, one of the good things that Sue negotiated yesterday, which for me is vitally important, before they put their updated information up, it's going to come to us, for us to pass to the carers, for them to have a direct input into what is said and what's ambiguous, what isn't ambiguous. And I think that's really important, because then locally at least, carers are involved in that process.
They like to feel that they've got a voice.
Yeah.
So
so that's a really good piece of news.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to, all being well, the roadmap is set now, and those dates don't move.
I hope so.
I'm very much looking forward to come to see you face to face again, and maybe with lots of other carers. I'd love to do it in the end of June or July.
Well,
time.
I'm aiming. So every year you have like Carers Week. Yeah. So because of the way the roadmap is, it doesn't quite work to have the Carers Picnic with Carers Week this year, because again, it's not going to work. So I'm still aiming to do a picnic for them at Mulberry Rings in Dorchester, which is going to be quite a big thing.
Have you got a date yet where you think you're going to do that one?
26th of June.
So it's just after, hopefully roadmap will work.
The Carers Week's the week of I think the 10th.
Yeah, so it's a Saturday.
So it'll be the following Saturday.
Okay.
And I've arranged, we've got things like a hairdresser there to do hair things for them. We've got a lady coming to do their nails.
I don't know about you, but I need a hairdresser right now.
You're in good company.
I did a bit of DIY. I don't know if you can see.
It's fine. My roots are terrible.
It's never been an issue for me.
I was going to say, Mark, not the biggest difficulty, I suppose, but
I think you're more than welcome. If we can, if Sue can pull it off.
If it's on the 26th of June and all goes to plan, I would love to come along. I mean, assume we're talking about the afternoon or something.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, no, I'd love to come and join you. So if you let me know, we'll pencil it in the diary, and if you let me know as soon as you know sort of what the plan is. And then it'll be lovely to come and
Well, the plan, we're sticking to that unless something.
Unless the roadmap goes
we have booked it.
Yep.
So it's ideal. But we've had some good support there. Gennaro's, the Italian restaurant here, is bringing their pizza takeaway truck. And various other things Sue's organising. And that's the other piece. We've got a couple of very, very good volunteers who've come to help us pretty much full time. So Kelly and Libby, who I'm sure you'll meet in due course, who've got a unique skill sets which fit very nicely. What are the other things we had to tell you?
We are sort of relaunching as of the 31st of March.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So we had been working with Leonardo's, but now because we do community share as well, what we've decided to do is we're putting Dorset Carers Hub within community share. So we'll be able to do more for the carers, but we're relaunching with a new logo, etc. So it's a lot crisper. We're becoming more professional.
Boring.
No, it's not boring at all. So it just basically enables us to be able to do a lot more for carers, and to get more funding in to be able to do a lot more things for them.
And I think that is important, because one of the things I'd love to be able to do and maybe help you with is, now start to think about how we can, get the hub to have a bit more profile. And recognition. So I think that's going to be really important to recognise that going forward.
Sorry, Marcus.
No, I was just saying we're delighted to be able to merge and pool our resources with one sort of really strong head office team that are able to bring all the great resources we have and put them where they have the most effect. Because at the end of the day, the people that Community Share have helped from their start are virtually the same. So the synergy was there, and we're very excited to be able to bring that professionalism that Sue said, but also greater reach and greater scope for the community in general, and obviously carers at the front of that list. So we're really excited.
Brilliant. Yeah, it sounds excellent. I'm so pleased to hear about it. As I said, I'd be very pleased to help in any way.
Well, I was going to ask you, if you remember last time we spoke, we talked about the possibility of an increase in the carers allowance, and you mooted the idea of perhaps we could, through your good self, get some support from other MPs who have similar interests and sympathies.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wonder, perhaps we at some point relatively soon we could talk about how we could start to move that along.
It's quite a complex issue in that some carers as well, when they go across to universal credit, they lose quite a bit of money by going across to universal credit. There's also been a lot of at the moment, because they gave an increase of £20 to those on universal credit, but not all carers are on universal credit. So then they felt a bit put out again because they felt that they're neglected and stuff. So there's a huge thing about they feel they're really undervalued. Is the main thing that we're hearing from carers. They just feel that the whole government basically just doesn't reflect and doesn't, especially with the mix up with the vaccine. it hasn't helped things, put it that way.
No.
They really
Say,
feel
and,
they're neglected.
yeah, and when you say the mix up with the vaccine, you mean the points that we were talking
Yeah,
about just a little bit
what we
earlier?
talked
Yeah,
about
okay.
before.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I won't mention the surgery, but one local surgery in Dorchester specifically, we had informal complaints about.
Yeah, quite a
That
lot.
they rang us because we'd said ring your surgery and make sure that you are listed as a carer as you are a carer. And they rang us back and said, well, they said we can't do that. No idea why, but that was raised by Sue with the CCG. And I believe they're going to address that, because obviously that's not that would be interference on our part. But we need to raise the issue, don't we?
Yeah, and I have raised the issue.
Yeah.
You know what I'm like.
Yeah.
I don't let things go so easily.
Yeah, and have they sort of satisfactorily responded to that?
Well, it was only yesterday.
Well, yes,
okay.
you've only just heard about it yesterday, but I had spoken to other people in the NHS regarding it.
Okay, so I mean, maybe you'd be so kind as to let me know as to how you get on then.
Yeah,
just to make sure we make the progress that that you need, and if not, then we'll see what we can do. I'll happy to take it up with CCG or even more local surgeries if necessary. There's no problem.
Fantastic, that would be really good. Marcus, would you like to sort of elaborate on our collaboration, if I can say the word?
Collaboration, like that.
So we our ambition is to have one head office, which brings all of the moving parts together and gives us that ability to continue to be as agile as we have been in the last year. But it also puts a focus on the programs we want to deliver. And it was interesting I heard a little part of your speech about connectivity and broadband in rural Dorset. Yeah. And just little things like that makes such a huge difference to carers. Yeah. And I think certainly as a community organisation merged and going forward, it's something we would very much want to champion because of the difference it makes to people that are, if you like, time poor and quite often restricted to being at home. So I think we can have some quite strong case studies as to the benefits of that improved connectivity. And for us then it's taking those opportunities of working together to deliver things like, and we're bringing forward a respite box, which again particularly targeted at carers who might have a very short-term urgent need for simple food that gets them 3 days, popping it in the microwave only and throw the cartons in the bin, gives them a 3-day lift, and we want to target that very much at those people who most need it. So a number of projects and strategies coming forward.
Lots happening.
And it's good. I mean, it's really good to hear that. Have you any thoughts yet on where the head office will be in terms of coming together?
We're committed to having it in Dorchester. Yeah. It's just a case of finding the right venue. Yeah. We're working hard, as they say. It's always a challenge when you're so new. But we love a challenge, and we've risen all the way through the last 12 months, and it's been really, really great to get to know Sue and Mark from the church, and we formed a really strong team. So yeah, we're committed to remaining in Dorchester.
I bumped into Mark in Dorchester. It's probably 3 or 4 months ago now. It was I think it was November time, or beginning of November. And it was really, it was really nice to see him, because I haven't seen him for a little while actually. And I know he does such good work at the church. And I remember very vividly. You remember the hustings when I came over to you? I think I've said this to you before. I found that a very moving experience for me, coming to talk to you about that, and to hear from carers and their challenges and their difficulties and all the wonderful things that you experience as well. I found it very moving and very memorable. And I'm just so sorry that the COVID restrictions have meant that I've not been able to come to visit as much as I might like to be able to, and to go and visit Mark at the church as well.
Oh, we appreciate that. It's I mean, we've all had to adapt to the the meandering of the virus,
But probably work harder in a way as well, because we've all been digital and at the end of a phone, people have automatically thought, oh, almost 24/7.
Yes.
You know, they can get you anytime.
Yeah.
And meetings, people forget. Before, you used to be able to move between meetings, didn't you? Now you're on a computer, so they think you can go from one to another with like 2 minutes in between.
You know, we do have to take care about that, because, you know, it can be very easy just to stay indoors and do Zoom. I mean, for me, for example, especially on a Friday, it can be very easy now to stay indoors and just do Zoom after Zoom after Zoom after Zoom all day and not get much in the way of exercise, nor sunlight, nor fresh air. And you know, if you're like me and probably need to lose a few ounces, it's not the best thing to do, really. So, you know, the exercise element is important, really important. We mustn't forget that.
And we were talking about that the other day, weren't we, Marcus?
Absolutely. And Chris, when you've spent the time we have going through First Aid for Mental Health, one of the absolute highlights is that fresh air and exercise, and everybody needs to balance. And it's nothing to do, it's just our mental wellness. But we all need that lovely balance, don't we?
Yeah.
But part of, I think, working together and going forward is being the voice of that balance for everybody.
I agree.
And that's so important.
And one of the great things to help, especially if you find yourself being indoors more, or maybe you're stuck indoors for a period of time, is to have some vitamin D supplements. They're really good for that sort of thing. They help your immune system as well. And you know, they're not very expensive in Boots. You can get them, or I suppose you can even get them online now. But they're really good. I take one of those every day. They've you know, actually, it was after you remember back in the autumn when I said to you I wasn't feeling 100%. You know, having I started taking vitamin D after that once a day. And you know, it's made me feel much better and much more energized, and it's really helpful, especially if you're not getting so much sunlight. Because it's the sunlight that helps your body get vitamin D. So it is a really good thing to do.
It's fantastic. One of the really exciting things that happened last week was, I don't know if you know of the artist Stuart Semple.
No, I don't.
He's born and bred in Dorset, international artist, but he's an ambassador for Mind. And he very kindly did a podcast with us and a YouTube, and we were talking about, you know, art therapy and the things that we can get carers to do at home cheaply that may improve their mindfulness and their mental well-being. And as on the back of that, we've decided to launch a community art competition, and we're hoping to get a response from he will judge the finalists. And if you're interested in that, I can keep you in the loop with that.
Yeah, I'd love to know a bit more about it.
There's interesting enough several of our carers who are avid artists, are even very keen, because their usual art groups haven't met in over 12 months.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So we're trying to throw things out there that will improve people's mental well-being, but you know, being proactive about it rather than reactive. And I think that's important.
I agree. Yeah.
You know, the signposting is all very well, and we're not professionals. We don't claim to be. But if we can distract,
I'm professional. Thank you very much.
if we can distract and engage carers in a more, you know, positive way, then that's surely got to be a good thing.
I mean, it'll make a big difference, and I think it will also, you know, go to continue to help, you know, sort of make the case to get further support and help where we need it. Yeah, I completely agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the other highlights that has come out of sitting and talking with Sue and Mark a lot more recently was one of the things we identified was that Not everybody identifies themselves as a carer, and I'll put my hand up. I was one of those. I have a sister who is in a wheelchair from MS, and I don't identify myself as a direct carer. But the thing we did come up with is that people are, what we like to use now is periodic carers. Everybody has things that happen that cause them to go into a care role for a period of time. We want to make sure that as we move forward and relaunch, we actually engage with those people as well, and we make people more aware that actually an awful lot of us are genuine carers, and there is help and support for them. And that's been quite an eye-opener to me, but it's been part of some pretty deep philosophical discussions that we've been able to have in the last few weeks.
And I think that's where it's good with the census, because obviously for the first time ever, there is now a box.
Oh, I'm so glad.
You know, yeah, that has gone down
That made
very
my
well.
day, that did.
You know, to actually be able to tick the box. And, you know, from a government point of view, we're going to get a far more accurate tally.
And it's actually one of the things I was going to mention to you, because I think that's going to be great news. I think, if anything, it's going to provide the level of statistics that we really need to understand the extent of, you know, how much people care for family or friends. You know, it's going to be really, really good. I'm looking forward to seeing the results from it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think and of course people are obliged to do it, so we're going to get.
Well, we don't have figures at the moment, really, do we? I mean, I'm in the Dorset Carers Partnership Group with the NHS and the council, etc.
Yeah.
And even amongst all of us, none of us know the exact figure of how many carers are in the area. How many registered fully.
Yeah.
Because different people are recorded on different systems, and there's no way of actually knowing the exact number.
No.
It's so hard.
Well, there is now, because the census should help us with it, so it's going to be great news.
Whoever made that decision is absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy with that.
Yeah. Well, I think. Can I just say? I think one of the things that really did make an impact about that was the extent to which Carers UK moved so many people, you know, me included, during the general election campaign. I you know, because I know it just wasn't in West Dorset that you know, Carers UK you know, facilitated the discussions, and then the hustings and the briefings and so on that they gave us. I know it was all over the UK.
Yeah.
And I genuinely think that they've had a really positive effect. And, you know, whilst I haven't talked to the statistics people that do the census work, I'm pretty certain that will have had a fairly considerable influence in it, which is great news.
Yeah, I was very pleased with that.
Do we have any more news for Chris?
No, but I'd like to know how Chris is, and Chris, if that's all right.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, if you must, God.
No, so how have you been in general?
Well, can I just say it's very kind of you to ask. One of the things with being an MP is that you do find sometimes that people think, or some people think, that you're sort of invincible.
Yeah,
and that you're kind of a bit of a robot, and you don't have sort of feelings and emotions in quite the same way as that people do. But it's always very nice to be asked, so thank you. So let's say over the last 6 months, shall we? The 6 months have been reasonably tough going for me. Christmas this last year was the first Christmas I spent away from home in my entire life. I was in London on the day that the Prime Minister announced just before Christmas that there needed to be further restrictions put in place, and that was at the point where they discouraged people from going, you know, from London back home for Christmas and so on. And you know, whilst I'm a key worker as an MP, you know, I could have done it within the rules and regulations. I didn't think it was quite in the spirit of things to go home for Christmas dinner and to be able to go to church for Christmas. So I went for the first time, I went to Westminster Abbey for church on Christmas Day. It's I've got on my diary to in my list of to-dos to come and see you in Dorchester, and particularly to visit Mark and his church in Dorchester. And I've wanted to do it for a long time, but on Christmas Day I was thinking and praying for you all from Westminster Abbey at 11 o'clock on Christmas Eve night. So so that was that was lovely. But I mean, now we're recording this. I'm in Dorchester whilst we're recording this. This is only that's the second time I've been down since December, since before Christmas. And that has been a conscious decision on my part, because I don't think it's been appropriate for me to come backwards and forwards, you know, especially where London's been having higher levels of cases than here. And I made that conscious decision to be in London rather than here, because my core role is ultimately to hold the government to account on its decisions, and to, you know, to lobby accordingly when we need the government to act for us. And you know, as much as I know a lot of my colleagues feel that they're able to do that, you know, from their homes across the country, I felt, you know, especially as I'm a newer MP, rather than maybe, you know, all of my neighbours have been here for years and years, and, you know the ropes, and, you know who to go to, and know what to, you know, what buttons to push. For me, of course, that's not quite the case, because I'm still learning, and it's been a bit of a, you know, baptism of fire year. So I decided to stay in London and do it from there. But now, you know, what with the roadmap, I'm very much looking forward to being here much more. I'm hoping to move house in a few months' time as well. So you know, I'll have quite a few things that will have changed. But in terms of what's going on in the House of Commons, there's been a lot of things happening, both in terms of debates and in terms of legislation. You kindly asked me about my animal welfare bill earlier on. That has now finished the House of Commons. So it's had 3 readings in the House of Commons. It's now gone to the House of Lords, and we've got to get it through before Parliament prorogues, because that'll be early May.
Right.
So there's going to be a Queen's speech in the middle of May, and that's like the state opening of Parliament. And the state opening is basically the time where the Queen sets out the government's agenda for the coming, well, it varies really, but say 18 months. It's normally a year. There's normally a state opening of Parliament every year, but that hasn't quite happened over the last few years because of some of the anomalies and oddities about Brexit and some other things. But we'll have that now in May, but I need to make sure that my bill gets through before proroguing, because otherwise, if it doesn't, it falls, and then that means we've got to do it all again. And this bill on animal welfare sentencing, so basically it's the bill is a law that basically says if you abuse animals or you're cruel to animals, whereas today you can be sentenced to go to jail for up to 6 months. Going forward, that will go up to 5 years.
Wow.
So I hope that's a good deterrent for people not to abuse cats and dogs and other animals, because I think, you know, it's a horrible thing to do. I was quite moved to do it, and by my own experiences when I drove home one night a few years ago from Frampton, across Backham down to home, which is just south of Sherborne, and there was a Springer Spaniel on the side of the road, and she'd been abandoned there. There's no two ways about it, and she was in quite a bad way. She had to go to the vets and had to have, you know, some teeth out and some stitches, and her pads were raw, and she was in quite a state. Yeah, we took care of her. My dad took her to the vets the next day because I had to go to work, and she's now a member of the Loder family at the farm, where she's got a new life and she's loving it. And I was quite inspired to do something for animal welfare as my private members bill. So touch with that's going through. But there've been lots of other things as well, and I know there's some important debates happening. One of the probably more relevant ones is actually how going forward we make social care work in the future here.
Yeah,
it is really important. The model I don't think works very well at the moment, and especially for those with learning disabilities and special educational needs.
Yeah.
That system has been complicated for too long. You've got too many components in the mix. You've got
that is a problem. There's too many things, isn't there?
Yeah, that's right. So you generally got the healthcare element, you've got the educational element, and you've got the local authority element. And it's far too often do we see cases of people sort of like falling down in between the bits, if you like, and really struggling as a result of that. So the government's announced a review of that, and that's not before time, frankly. It's needed to happen for some time. But saying that, we've also made quite a lot of progress locally. So Dorset Council has purchased a new school in Shaftesbury.
Oh yes,
which good. I don't know if you heard about that, but that's going to be really good.
Yeah.
Because at the moment there are so many children with special educational needs or disabilities who have to go a long way every day for support for education or to go to school, and it costs an enormous amount of money. And I think with that school and with the work that hopefully will happen as a result of it, we'll be able to have a facility that will deliver what we need. That will mean the costs will come down significantly, so I haven't got to pay for children to travel sometimes at least an hour, sometimes two, to get to a school. And then I think that will also have a good effect on council tax, for example, going forward, because not many people know this, but of the council tax, of the council element of the council tax, 70% of what we pay goes to support for social care.
Oh wow!
Here in Dorset, it's an enormous amount, and some people don't recognise it, but they're rightly concerned that the council tax appears to be high.
Yeah.
And one of my challenges has been, to the council and to others, how can we reduce that council tax, because it is a lot of money.
It is,
and one of the ways of which they're embracing it is to say, well, actually, one of the things that we can do is that we can reduce the amount of money that we spend and improve the quality of education, particularly for children with those special educational needs, by having a new school in Shaftesbury. So I'm looking forward to that coming off in due course. So that's been really good. We've got a lot going on at the moment. We had a debate in Parliament earlier this week, and it will come back to the House of Commons in the next few weeks, and that's been surrounding the police courts and sentencing bill. That's attracted quite a lot of coverage. Predominantly about how public order is managed. And when we say public order, that means basically protests and demonstrations and how they're managed. And I thought it might just be worth saying that despite what you might hear on the news, it isn't quite as it might appear. There is no move by the government to stop the ability to protest. There is no move by the government to stop demonstrations. But what we've been seeing in London is some people go to real extremes in terms of putting their own safety at risk and that of other people. So one brief example is where people will lock their arms together in a cylinder, which has got a metal inner, and then there's a metal outer, and in between, what they do is they they fill that void in between with things like razors and nails. And if you look on the Metropolitan Police events Twitter feed, you can watch some of the videos of the police officers having to do it, and that is not in the spirit of what protesting is.
That's another level.
It is, and it's my opinion that the government need to act to deal with some of those things properly. But it isn't stopping protesting. It's not stopping demonstrations. I just wanted to give a little bit of assurance in case some people had seen that.
I mean, you'll always get the media try and blow things out of proportion.
It's true. I mean, I have noticed more lately that the media does sometimes exaggerate some things like that. But the thing for me that's important going forward is that the media looks to present the facts of the situation, not opinion, because it's in my opinion, in my view, it's the role of the press to present those facts so you can make your opinion based on those facts rather than someone else making the opinion for you. And that's one of the things that have slightly frustrated me over
I suppose a good example of that is on a less extreme was the discussion yesterday about reducing the allowances for electric cars. But the comments were, I mean, they're reducing it by £500, but grants slashed, because obviously slashed is a far more abrupt, alarming word. But of course, at the end of the day, they're trying to sell papers, aren't they? So
yeah, indeed. And I think some of those things we have to take care about. There are the electric cars, for example. There is something that even I'm not sure that we fully understand the full effect of electric cars. Most people believe that they are good for the environment. They're going to be the right thing to do. And I hope that is the case, because in the face of it, they don't emit fumes from the car. There's no exhaust. It's electric. But the one thing I'm not sure we understand enough is actually how those batteries are made, and the minerals that come from other countries that go to make them. Those minerals have to be mined, and for those minerals to be mined, they are often done in areas or countries where employment rights are out the window, and what many people would probably deem as slave labor.
Wow.
And I think we've got to just fully understand that, because I'm not sure we do. And the other element, of course, is we've got to understand about the disposal of those batteries as well, because disposing batteries is not a straightforward and easy thing, because they again will pollute the ground or wherever they are disposed. And that leads on just finally to one of the other things I've done in Parliament over the last couple of months, is where I put forward an amendment to the Environment Bill about single-use plastics.
All right, fantastic.
Yeah, so single-use plastics, we have far too much of it. When you go into a supermarket, or when I go into a supermarket, I look at the shelves, and what I see, I don't see food and drink and things you need for the home. I see plastic with food inside it, or drink inside it, or other things, because almost everything you buy is covered in plastic. And of course the supermarkets have no responsibility to dispose of that plastic, and that is one of the things that's contributing to our net plastic, huge actually plastic excess being shipped abroad, because we can't deal with it all here. Now, I can't say as I never use single-use plastics. Of course I do. The thing that's regrettable about it is I don't really have the choice to go and use other things. That's the problem. So that's one of the things that I've put forward, and I hope we'll make some progress on that. Anyway, I've talked a very long time. I'm sorry about that.
No, that's fine.
Well, very well aware now. You've been talking far more than we'd intended. That's brilliant. That's good.
No, not at all.
Well, thank you very much for giving us your time again.
It's always a pleasure.
We fully support all that you're doing. It sounds like you're moving in very positive ways.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll talk to you very, very soon.
And see you at the picnic.
And see you at the picnic. Yeah,
Yeah, I look forward. I look forward to that. I've put it in the diary as we've been talking, and we'll just wait to hear from you to firm up the details. So that will be
fantastic.
so.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, Chris, and I hope to keep you up to date with community share and everything that we've got going on as well.
Yeah, we'd love that, Marcus. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.